I think that was the coolest intro I ever got in my life, so thank you, Max, for that. So 10 minutes are very, very short, so I tried to put as many information as I could get in this presentation. So normally only one part of it is like 1 hour, so I would say let's start directly and with the agenda. So I have 3 big points in the presentation. The first one is just to give you some general prospecting tips. And this is actually about myself, so actually what works well for me. I'm not sure if it would work for you, so try it out. Maybe it doesn't work, let's see. Then some tips that worked in the last couple of years for me. So as I said, or as Max said already, so I started as an SD, sales development, and worked my way up kind of at LinkedIn to enterprise sales. So there are some things that work very well in this couple of years, and I would like to share these things with you. And then the third part is rock your LinkedIn profile. So maybe hands up here who has a LinkedIn profile. I would say that's like 75% of the room.
It's sad if you don't have one, right?
It's very sad you don't have one. Yeah, that's actually true. Actually, the speakers before, they were talking a lot about LinkedIn, which is actually great. Carsten, you as well. And so this is the third part, and I would like to explain you what kind of things you have to look at in the LinkedIn profile that maybe you don't know yet. And then I hope we have some time left for some questions and answers. I mean, we'll be here for the next 1 or 2 hours, so you can also ask me later. You can also add me on LinkedIn later. It will be fine. So let's start with some general prospecting tips, what they worked well for me in the last couple of years. And so there are a lot of bullet points on here. Normally you should only put like 2 or 3 on them, but let's go through them. So first of all, I would like to start to say like adapt your message, okay? So Carsten, you were talking about elephants. So basically in enterprise sales, obviously we're going for the big customers. If you go to the smaller ones, I think a bit more mass approach, I think is totally fine. If we talk about C-level prospecting, I think you should really adapt the message a bit. That means that the prospecting is actually about the customer, right? So what is actually interesting for the customer? What can you bring him or her? And this is what I just want to say, because if you do the mass approach, it will be fine as well, but if you really go for C-level, you should adapt it a bit. Doing research, what do I mean by this? If you approach people, especially C-level, for example, you, Carsten, you get approached probably every day or every week by people, the message has to be very on point. So what is interesting for the people that you're approaching? So do some Google News, go into the annual reports on the website of the companies, have a look what's interesting for the client, for the CEO, COO. And then if you go to emails, so in-mails on LinkedIn, they're called in-mails, this is very important to add some information here that are interesting for the person that you're talking to. Social selling via LinkedIn, maybe some tips from my side here. You can actually follow C-level. So you don't have to connect with them, so you can add them, but you can also just follow them. If you add too many people on LinkedIn, just a little warning here, and you use LinkedIn as a, let's say, sales platform, at some point you will not be able to add any more people there. So it will be blocked for a while. So that can work, but after a few days you will recognize you cannot add any more people if they don't accept you. So a little tip from my side, especially C-level prospecting, you have the option to follow them. Okay, so I get just a little example here. So this is the president of the CEO of Siemens. Maybe you know him. So there are 2 options here. First option is you can connect with him, or you can follow him. If you connect with him, probably not accept your connection request. So the better way would be following him, having a look, what is he posting, taking this information, and then try to contact him with this information and make it relevant for him. Then warm introductions are basically the best ones, so you can always see if you have a 2nd or 3rd degree connection. So for example here at the CEO of Siemens, I have a connection with him somewhere. I have to look it up later who it is, but there's a 3rd degree connection here, so I can have a look later who he might know that I know, so I can ask him or her to make an introduction. Obviously 2nd degree connections work a bit better than 3rd degree, but always have a look on LinkedIn. Maybe someone knows someone there. Obviously, we have some professional tools for that as well. Today, I want to talk about the free options on LinkedIn. Obviously, we have also the Sales Navigator tool. I don't want to elaborate on that today. If you have questions about it, you can ask me later. But this is the free tips I give you today. Another thing that many of you maybe don't know yet, on LinkedIn you can join groups. So there are different groups. I mean, obviously there's some sales groups that you can join to get some sales tips. But if you, for example, you guys are probably working in very different fields. Some of you might work in the pharma industry. Some of you guys might work in the IT industry. So it depends on a bit who you want to contact. Let's take, for example, COO of a pharma company. You can have a look in which groups he is. And you can add, or you can add yourself or request to be added to this group as well. And have a look who might interesting contact person be in this group and contact her and him. I will also send you, by the way, the presentation later and with some tips which kind of groups you might join later. Second thing is, if you approach people, it's always good to email or in-mail not only one decision maker in the company. It's always better to message a few of them, because obviously some of them will not answer, some of them might give you the right person in the company. So this is also something that worked very well for me, especially with email, but also with in-mail. And this is actually something Carsten said today, this is interesting, he said it as well. Follow-ups are very important. So normally the people will not answer the first email. The second email is very important. And actually I also said third email, then it's over. So it's actually almost the same approach that you said with C-level as well. And after that I would pause a bit, because after that it's spam. And this probably also answers the question from the crowd. I think some of you asked why you stopped after the third email. After that it's just considered a spam, and you can just stop. So, or you can at least wait 2 months and then you can start again. But else you will be your typical sales guy that you don't want to be. You want to be a consultant, you don't want to be a sales guy. Another thing is that I always say social selling works, obviously, but I personally think that cold calling is not that, especially if you go on a very high level, but it takes a lot of time. So if you do it on a mass scale, you will not have the time to do that, okay? So if you go for, let's say you have your big bets in your book of accounts, and you say, okay, I have 20 to 30 accounts, I really want to go in there, they have large revenue streams. I personally sometimes think that cold calling can still work, but like I said, it takes a lot of time. So if you go for the rabbits, for example, it probably doesn't make sense to cold call them, because it takes just too much time. I will also show you some things later, hope we have enough time here, to post and share interesting content on LinkedIn to build up your brand, because to be honest with you guys, and you know that as well, salespeople are not very liked person in the world. So basically, it's always good to be a consultant, right? So that this typical sales guy approach doesn't really work. So it's important also to build your brand on social networks. I mean, I work for LinkedIn, but you can also do it on other networks as well. But this is very important. I will also show you later how you can do that. Some general sales tips that worked well for me in the last couple of years. I'm a person, I love to organize myself with follow-up calls. What I mean by this is my whole week is basically full of follow-up calls. So if I do a disco demo and the customer, for example, says, yeah, okay, we come back to you in the next couple of weeks, I always say, okay, I like to organize myself with follow-up calls. So can we have another follow-up call maybe in, let's say, 3 weeks, only if it's 2 minutes long. So basically, and this is also what I mean with the second point here, high activity, my whole week is basically full of follow-up calls, even if they're only 5 minutes or 2 minutes. And many of you would say, okay, this is very obvious, but believe me, guys, I have many colleagues of mine that don't do it, and I don't know why, but they're not performing as well sometimes. So try it out, really do always the follow-up calls, even if the follow-up call doesn't work out and they say, we don't have a decision yet, to say, no worries at all, let's do another follow-up call in 5 weeks, and you will see it will work out pretty well. Also, if you work with customers, I think what I also was forgetting it a lot is asking for referrals after you are working with the customers. So basically, if you, for example, had a customer, you worked with them for a while, or you closed the deal, and they're very happy with the consulting you did, ask them if they have maybe other, not friends, but maybe people in other companies that would need your help as well, and suddenly you get a lot of referrals and some leads as well. And also connect with your clients on LinkedIn. I mean, I work for LinkedIn, so for me it's pretty simple just to add them later and they add myself. But also with you guys, if you work with them, always connect with your clients, because your personal network is very important. You might work now for a company, but who's like in 3 years maybe a different company, in 5 years a different company. Time is already over?
Very close.
Oh. Wow, that's only the first part. Okay, then oh my God. Okay. Then let's do the fast approach now. So first point, I always say if you don't pitch it, customer would not buy it. What I mean by this is, for example, LinkedIn has like, I think, 20, 30, 40 different products. And what I always see is that most of my peers, they're always pitching the same products because I don't know why, but they think it's easy. They're in a comfort zone with this kind of products. But really try to implement new products in your pitch. What I don't mean is like that you just say, by the way, you can buy this and this, and you can also buy this. What I mean is really put it in your flow. So you really put different products in your flow so that it really makes sense. And if you have questions regarding that, we can also talk about later. But yeah. Breaking the sales cycle. So some of you guys might be business development reps, but some of you are probably account executives. What I mean by breaking the sales cycle is that normally this normal sales cycle is that the business development rep makes the first call for 30 minutes, then the next call goes to you, then it's another 30 minutes, then you have a demo. So what I started is, I told my BDR back then, just put me in the calls directly, especially if there was C-level, because this sometimes saves you 1 month in the whole sales cycle, because you can directly go from the first call into a demo. I don't do with every call, but if there's a HR manager, because I'm selling HR software, if there's a CEO involved, I always say, you know what, give me the call directly. And I know many of my peers don't like to do this. I don't know why, but I'm always doing it and it works out pretty well. And learn from the best. Even I go to the peers and I ask them, can I schedule your calls? And they're like, hey guy, man, last year you were first in the ranking. I was like, I don't care, man. I just want to shadow you. I just want to learn, because there's always something you can improve. Shadow calls from other guys, girls as well, obviously, and you will always learn little thing there. I just showed you this slide. By the way, we have almost 700 million members right now, so you all should have a LinkedIn profile. If you don't have it yet, do it. These are some rock your profile tips. I will send around a presentation later. Just a quick one here. By the way, Carsten, in your fake profile, you forgot to add the title picture. So you have the picture, and then you have the title picture. So yours was still the blue one. So if you didn't add your title picture yet, do it. It pimps up your profile pretty well. Add some volunteer experience as well, because obviously you work in sales, but you also want to be found by recruiters maybe at some point. And volunteer experience is sometimes even more important now than the sales experience, because all of you have sales experience, but maybe only some of you have very good volunteer experience as well. The headline, for example, here it says CEO at LinkedIn. Okay, this is a special one because he is CEO. But if you, let's say, enterprise account executive, you don't have to say in the headline that you're enterprise account executive. You can say, I'm inspired by people, whatever, and you will still see the name or the title in the job title later. So I'm just saying the header can be different there. But you can also ask me about that later, because it's pretty hard to explain in a short of time. You can also add a summary, and obviously publications, accomplishments. If you were in Sales Club, always put it in your profile, because recruiters, for example, will search for specific points. For example, they will search for Sales Club, President's Club, and they will not find you if you didn't put it in your profile. So it's a bit like a search engine optimization, your profile, and if you want to be found by people, put as many information into your profile as possible. I will send you also some best practices for posting on LinkedIn, writing articles on LinkedIn. Some of you want to make photos. I will just send to you later. Sharing videos on LinkedIn. Sorry? Yeah. And also some one-pagers regarding your profile, so you can, you can learn a bit. And actually, this is interesting. This is exactly what you said before. You should always, if you add someone, always put a message in there. It increases the chance that he or she will accept. It's what you said. So, yeah, I think we're up. Time is up, right? Thank you, guys.
So one thing I want to second right off the bat is, pin your profile, because that's how I find people like Pascal to speak at SalesMaster. So if you want to be speaking here sometime, make it easy for organizers like me to find you guys. So that being said, Pascal, let's take maybe 3 quick questions, and then we'll take a break and have some food and drink, and then get on with the program.
Anything on algorithm hacking? hacks, algorithm hacks on the content, be more visible among the prospects you can share?
Algorithm hacks.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean, right?
No.
No?
You mean like that you get found easily, or?
So basically, I mean, this is really cool stuff.
Mhm.
I'm using a lot the sales. I'm using the Sales Navigator a lot.
Mhm.
I think the best tool out there
Mhm.
today for sales. One thing we do is when we connect with the right prospects, right? We want to nurture
Mhm.
them, we want to
Mhm.
be visible, we want to build this self-branding, the way they're aware of us before we reach to them. Because when they're aware of us and we reach to them, the requirement is much higher.
Mhm.
Thing is, they get also a lot of content from their other contacts, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of algorithm ways to get the algorithm going that your post will be visible, by them, right? And LinkedIn is changing the algorithm constantly. I know that people are trying to hack it and comments, clicks. Is anything you could share or some tips to get your? That would be really cool hack.
No. So you're a techie guy, I think, right? No, man. Like seriously, like the algorithm, as you said, is changing a lot. So I cannot really answer this question right now. I mean, obviously there are some things like, for example, what is interesting maybe for all of you guys, because the Sales Navigator tool is something very specific. Probably not everybody's working with it, but never underestimate the organic reach you guys have, especially if you only have a few. Let's say you only have 100 connections on LinkedIn. I saw posts on LinkedIn or articles that were seen like 50,000, 100,000 times. If it's an interesting article for the industry, so never underestimate organic reach. So this is something I can say. For the Sales Navigator, we can maybe later talk with a beer, but I cannot tell you what the algorithm is in the back, sorry. Yes, please. Yes, you can.
I bring the mic.
Are you? Okay, great.
Thanks. Do you have internal numbers on conversion rates of responses of email versus connection then message? Which works better?
You mean like if you add someone, you add a message in there?
No, if you add someone and write a message afterwards, or if you just directly do the email.
No, sorry. Like I don't have an answer to that. I mean I can think about something now, but no.
Cool. All right, so we're gonna take a quick break, guys. Big round of applause for Pascal. Thanks so much. And